I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of the masters, and the compassion and mercy of the grand predecessors, senior transmitters, lecturers, temple masters, and everyone for giving me this opportunity today to learn to speak about chapter 70 of the Tao Te Ching. Okay, chapter 70 is it's a shorter than average chapter, so it's not as long. The title is Holding Jade, or Compassionate Life. Okay, so it's only made up of 9 phrases or lines. It's divided into 3 sections. The first section is basically the difference between what Lao Tzu's simplicity and the let's say directness of his words versus what the world, or what people see them as either mysterious or difficult to understand and practice. Okay, so he's talking about the difference between what his words and his meaning and how the world see it. And then the second section basically expands on the first section and explains how it's easy to understand his words by basically by knowing the principles of the Tao as the source or foundation, of everything. However, if people do not know the Tao, or do not wish to know the principles of the Tao, then they won't understand his words. Okay, so that's what section 2 is. And then the last section, the conclusion, the last section, is he's once again stressing how the Tao is, how it's precious. Okay, or the precious Tao, how it's very valuable. It's highly valued because only very few people can understand his words. All right, so at the end here, it's very similar to chapter 62. Okay, the last phrase of chapter 62. All right, which is how the Tao is the most valuable in the world. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the outline. Okay, the outline. All right, the outline. Okay, so this is, let's see, this is only 7 pages. Okay, so it's not long. I should hopefully finish it within an hour or so. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's start. Okay, so the first section is my words are very easy to understand, very easy to practice. The world is not able to understand, is not able to practice. Okay, so basic meaning is Lao Tzu's words are really plain. I mean, when you during his time. Okay, now in the Chinese, his words are, you have to say they're not that how can I say that complex. In his day, you got to understand the words. During his time. Okay, I mean to us, to modern day, because he used a lot of words that are either archaic or that are no longer in use, etc., or has a that the same words as used today, but they has a slightly different meaning, older usage meaning. But generally speaking, his words are generally very straightforward, very simple. I mean, if you compare that to the Analects, it's a little bit different. His words, okay. So, well, I mean, obviously Analects has more words, but anyway, but his goal, okay, was not to dwell too deeply into esoteric concepts, okay. Rather, his goal is to be clear, direct, and to the point. That's what he meant by his words are very easy to understand. He doesn't dive into too much esoteric concept. What are the esoteric concepts? Yes, there are a couple chapters that that does dive into the metaphysics of the Tao. I think the last time, the last time we really, touched upon that aspect was in chapter 56. Okay, chapter 56, I believe. Yeah, what's the name of the title? The chapter 56 was chapter 56. What's the honored or valued Tao? Okay, the honor or valued Tao. All right. And also you could say, chapter 1 is relatively, you could say the relative, mysterious, etc. But he generally doesn't dwell too much on it. He tries to talk more about the practical aspects. Even though in chapter 71, on the surface it's practical, but there is also the metaphysics of the Tao that he was implying. Okay, in next week we'll talk about that, chapter 71. Yeah, 71. Yeah, chapter 71. Okay. But anyway, but his goal is to be clear. Okay, that means he wants to be more practical. Okay, so another thing is he's not trying to be mysterious and abstruse in his words. His words are simple to put into practice in everyday life. Okay, it's very practical. Okay, he has a practical aspect. Okay, so although he did not talk about the concept of the essence of Tao being formless, okay, he doesn't dwell too much on emptiness, formless, or in the Buddhist Buddhist canons, sutras, sunyata, that Buddha talked a lot. He has a lot. He did a lot, but he didn't, unlike Buddha, Lao Tzu did not spend that much time talking about that concept, that notion of that. Okay, he did not go deeply into that because his goal was rather to be clear, simple, and to the point. Okay, he wanted to make it more practical. All right. Okay. Now, he also had a practical reason for doing this, because all the things he talked about, okay, all the things that he talked about, people could apply them in practical life. Okay, that's the thing. All right. So because after all, the Tao is not just in some esoteric metaphysical concept, but rather it's practical because it is applicable in everyday life. Okay, so it's similar to the expression "talk the talk and walk the walk." Right. So so the Tao, although its essence, right, its essence is you can say it's very mysterious. It's actually beyond intellectual comprehension, right? Okay, or cognitive comprehension, or conscious comprehension, or understanding, conscious understanding. We'll talk about more about that. That's more, the more deeper aspect, or the metaphysical aspect. Okay, in chapter 71. Okay, that's okay. But anyway, but rather, he wants to he wants to focus more on the practical side, okay, of the Tao. That's the application side. Okay, how do we apply in our everyday life? Okay. All right, so then the second line, which is the world cannot understand or cannot practice, is that in the modern era, most people will consider his words to be mysterious, difficult to understand, and to follow even in today's Chinese society. All right, because let's face it, the Chinese words or language that he used was 2,500 plus years ago usage. So it's like in in the English parallel would be like using, I don't know, Old English, versus modern English. So the English that's written down, let's say if you're reading Beowulf, or not Beowulf, the other one, Canterbury Tales. Okay, so that's Old English. Okay, so maybe the obvious, it may be the same words, but they have different meanings, different usage. Okay, similar idea. But in the West, the people often view the Tao Te Ching as a riddle wrapped in mystery, inside an enigma or puzzle. And that's because, we'll get to a little bit later in this chapter. Often the translators are not really experts in the Chinese language, or at least in the ancient old Chinese language, and how it's used, etc. and also they have their own kind of like agenda, biases. So anyway, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, so people, well, that's the world today, often view this text as so mysterious, wrapped in mystique, hopelessly inscrutable, and difficult to understand, difficult to comprehend. Okay, so that's the challenge. Okay, about how today. All right, now here's how a common way to make the Tao difficult to understand is to intentionally do the following. Okay, so that's why people often in the West. I mean, I'm not just saying the West, but in the East too. But generally in the West, people it's like a riddle. Okay, so there are two ways. Okay, one is to make things more complex, than what it really is. To make the Tao Te Ching words more complicated than what it really is. Okay, actually, the Tao, from Lao Tzu's perspective, the Tao is very simple. All right, remember the chapter 37, right? Simplicity of the nameless. Okay, so you're talking about that with. Okay, now also sometimes the translators or the authors of the Tao Te Ching, usually in the West, they introduce an uncertainty to the meaning of the words, whereas Lao Tzu has very specific meanings to the words he used. Yeah, so we come across, and that's because in ancient China, they didn't have as many words as we have today. In Chinese uses. So a lot of times, a single word, character, term, could have many meanings, multiple meanings. That's the, but it's because it's based more on context. Okay, so when modern day translators are looking at those words, they say, hey, they look it up in the dictionary or whatever, they consult whatever experts or whatever linguistic experts and say, hey, then they would you know you know you know find out that, oh, this word has multiple meanings. So they tend to focus on that path, on that aspect, as opposed to trying to understand the specific meaning of the word given its context, within that context of either the sentence or, etc. Okay, so the above two ways, these two ways, the first two, to make things more complex and to, introduce uncertainty to the meaning of the words, are usually ego driven, because that makes one appear very, wow, authoritative, very knowledgeable, very intelligent or wise. Okay, so like for example, on the second point, people, would, the translators or authors would often, ask the question, well, because the words has multiple layers of meaning and blah, 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 so then, who's right or who's wrong? Who knows? It becomes uncertain, right? So whereas Lao Tzu's intent was never that. He had very, very specific goals or purposes, all right, in his choice of words. Okay, in his choice of words. All right, so that's why we have to know that thing. Okay, now most people, okay, tend to see the Tao Te Ching as difficult to understand because they see Lao Tzu describing the Tao as always in emptiness and always in existence, right? That's from chapter 1, right? That's in chapter 1, okay? Right, these two, that's the emptiness and existence emerge together but different in name. The unity, that's the merger of the two, is said to be the mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. All right, that's the last two sentences or phrases of chapter 1. So that's why when they read the first chapter, they will say, whoa, it's like mysterious, okay, but if you read the next 80 chapters or so, Lao Tzu was basically describing the Tao, or saying how it could be applied, what the Tao is, even though chapter 1 is kind of, you could say this section may be kind of mysterious or kind of very marvelous, something that's very esoteric, but okay, but anyway, all right, so okay, so the implication is this. All right. Okay. Lao Tzu's words in this text are meant to be clear and simple, direct and to the point, plain and practical, applied in everyday life. That's what, all these chapters are. Now, there are a couple chapters that he does talk about, very, aspect like chapter 25, for example, right? About the Tao's, about, how say the, how the Tao is formless, etc. Right? Okay, it's called formlessly created. That's the title of chapter 25. That's there are a couple chapters, but it's not the majority. Okay, all right. So this means that an authentic Tao cultivator would also be plain spoken and not use esoteric language, right? Okay, so it is not meant to be incomprehensible, so mysterious or mystical that no one could even possibly practice the Tao. Never mind, understand the Tao. The Tao is not disconnected from reality. So the true experts in all aspects of life always find ways to make things simple, right? So the highest level of expertise is to render a complex or difficult to understand concept or theory easy and simple to understand and practice, right? So the best experts of the world simplify complex matters so everyone can understand by reducing things to a few simple points that anyone can grasp. So the best experts of the world want everyone to be independent and not have to depend on the expert. Whereas the false experts of the world, those people who are ego-driven, et cetera, want to be needed by everyone. So they will try to make things as complicated as they possibly can, right? So that's the difference. So Lao Tzu is not the latter, okay? He wanted to make this, this concept, this very, you could say, mysterious, abstract concept of the Tao and make it practical that we can apply it in our daily lives, okay? All right, so let's look at some examples of the unnecessary complexity about the Tao. Let's go to Appendix A. Okay, Appendix A. So how do I identify a fake expert? All right, so fake expert, okay? So when you are especially reading Chinese, reading the translations of Tao Te Ching, because supposedly, this is what they say, that the Tao Te Ching is the second most translated text after the Bible or something like that, right? I mean, so there are a lot of versions or translations out there. All right, so how do we, pick? How do we find one that is the most accurate, okay, or the easiest to understand but does not twist the meaning, okay, of Lao Tzu's words? Anyway, so there are 3 signs or red flags that someone is only pretending to know a lot. So one is the overuse of jargon, often without explanation. Yeah, they often use like very, esoteric terms or, very, I wouldn't say impractical, but very, uncommon phrases or words to describe the Tao or to translate, the Tao Te Ching. Okay, so and often they don't explain it, so like the use of the word, they use paradox or mystery without explaining what it means. Okay, all right, so that's one sign, okay, that that this translator might not be, he or she is not probably it's misunderstanding, okay, or introducing too much complexity into the Lao Tzu's into the text. Okay, second, tells you that Chinese, every character has many definitions. Okay, yeah, I mean that's very common. That's very common. It's in itself, it's not wrong. I mean, yes, at the very prima facie or superficial level, it's true. A lot of Chinese characters have different meanings. The question is, what did they do about it? Okay, so actually, when you think about it, it's not that mysterious or that unusual, because other human languages, other languages, be it English, French, Spanish, German, etc., Latin, even, Japanese, any language, they also have similar traits in the sense that there are a lot of words in other languages that also have multiple meanings, or different meanings. And And the only way to get a to have a proper understanding of those words is through context. So context is often used to determine the exact meaning. Okay, so it's not just unique to the Chinese language. Okay, that words often, individual words or even phrases have different types of meaning or different levels. And you can also, and the only way to find its true exact meaning is through context. Okay. Then lastly, the other red flag is they say that there are many versions of the Tao Te Ching. Now, historically, that is true based on archaeological findings. Okay, I mean there is throughout the centuries after 2,500 years after the spring and autumn period, late spring and autumn period, archaeologists have discovered there are different versions, okay, of the Tao Te Ching. I mean the major now the versions are not that different. They do not differ over very dramatically or drastically from each other as much. Sometimes it's the way the chapters are organized, or the way the words are used. Some could be inverted, or sometimes they a few times they use different words. Okay, so they are some what we call quote unquote different versions. Now, but what most most experts and scholars do agree on, or kind of like have a consensus about, is that they all settled on one version that's generally recognized as probably the most authoritative and the most used and the most accurate version. Okay, so although there may be different versions, because don't forget that's 2,500 years ago, I mean, it's unlike, I mean, I'll say the parallel. Let's look at the Bible. Same thing. The Bible has different versions too. You know that, right? Okay. So the Protestant version is different generally from the Catholic version, the Roman Catholic version, which is also generally different from the Greek Orthodox or the Eastern Orthodox version. And then within each of these three, I don't know, I call it major branches of Christianity, be it the Protestant, the Roman Catholic, and the Eastern Orthodox, they have also subversions. Okay, so like the earliest version of the Protestant Bible is the King James Version, I believe. I think it's the King James Version. Anyway, okay. And then, after King James Version, there are other versions. There's the New World Vision. There's just too many, okay? Or the New King James Version, etc. And then the Roman Catholic, it's Roman Catholic doesn't deviate as much because it's basically under very I don't say strict control, but understand from the Vatican. Okay, so it's basically one type. But then the Eastern Orthodox, there are different versions. There's the Greek Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox, the Slavic Orthodox. They're different. Okay, so similar. Okay, similar. So the Tao Te Ching has similar different versions, but they've been standardized into one version roughly about in the 14th century. During the time, I think that was during the time of the Tang Dynasty. I think it's the Tang Dynasty, yeah, by this person named Wang Bi. He's a neo-Taoist philosopher scholar. All right, so today's version, generally speaking, today's version of the Tao Te Ching is the one that's standardized by him. Okay, so roughly 1,700 years ago or so, right? Okay, well, yeah, he's in the late. I forgot what dynasty this is. This is probably the Sui dynasty, or sometime before the Three Kingdoms, or the late Han dynasty. Sorry, is it the Eastern Han dynasty? Something like that. Okay, so anyway. All right, so this is before the Three Kingdom periods. Okay, so anyway, so he's a neo-Taoist scholar. All right, so that's the general version. Now there's another version, and we've touched upon a little bit before, like how come sometimes certain characters, there's a different character, that's you. It's called the He Sang Gong, the like I said, the old man by the river, old old man river, old river man, old man river, or something. That version. That's one of the oldest versions. Okay, that's been discovered. Okay, so sometimes they use that, but it doesn't differ that significantly. Okay, just some words are kind of swapped around and stuff like that. Okay, all right. So that's the main how some of the three common areas that we can see. Okay, where you just have to be aware of. So if you pick up a copy of the Tao Te Ching, translate, and you see these, if you read the preface or intro by the author or translator, if they do these three things, you just have to be aware of. Okay, so all right, so just okay, all right. So now let's go to section 2. Okay, my words have basis, or it can say aim or purpose. It has a goal, and my actions have principle. Okay, so that's how we translate as principle. Here's the thing. Okay, 中, the word 中. Okay, once again, this is an example of a word having many meanings. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, normally think about it has this much different meaning: purpose, model, school. It could be a sect, okay, religious sect, or it could mean ancestor too, lineage, clan. Okay, all right, so that's a noun. It could be a verb too. Okay, but in this context, it's like an ancestral lineage that's abstracted to a basis, foundational source. That so that there is that this lineage, okay, came from somewhere, some source. Okay, so that's why we says it's a basis. It has a foundation or basis. Okay, all right. Okay, now same thing with this word. Okay, now this word jing, now normal usage or common usage, it means this. It means usually monarch, ruler. Jing, like in Analects, 君子 means the superior person, the gentleman. I mean, that's one definition. Okay, the superior person. All right, but in this context, it's abstracted to the ruling principle. Okay, the ruling principle. That's what it means. Okay, it's the ruling principle. That is, and if you want to go even further deeper, it's the true master oneself. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, the supreme ruler or master of oneself. Okay, so that's what. Okay, so the basic meaning is this of this phrase is that of this line is that all the things that he did, Lao Tzu's words, his words and all the things that he did, that Lao Tzu did, are all based on something, on principles in this case, that have a basis or source, on principles that is found, that it has a foundation on something, that principles that are based on something, and that is the Tao. Okay, all right, based on something. All right, so it's not just that he made up those principles. So it's not that Lao Tzu made up those principles. Okay, so another meaning is this, is that he felt it was important that all the words he spoke were backed up by evidence from life or from nature, from life, from nature. Okay, so all what he said are, you can say, can be gleaned from or intuited from looking at, by observing nature or humanity or human life. Okay, so it's not based on his philosophical speculations. Okay, all right, so it's not based on some philosophical theories that he had. Okay, so that's very important. All right, so it's not based on that. Whereas in the West, a lot of not just in the West, but throughout the world, a lot of philosophers use philosophical theories or speculations that they had, and then try to apply it, to everything. So it's a little bit different. Okay, it's a different approach. It's it may slightly subtle, but it's very approach. Okay, it's different. All right. So I mean, that's not to say in the West there were philosophers who look at nature and try to glean from nature, from observing nature, and also humanity, or life, and try to come up with some theories to explain. That, all right. But that's different. That I think they call natural philosophy or something like that. They're different branches. Anyway, okay. So a common way for people to follow the wrong path is when they ignore the principle of plainness and simplicity. All right. So that's the thing. When a lot of times philosophers, great thinkers, even intellectual thinkers, they try to, they let's say have this idea, or this notion, this concept, this some kind of philosophical concept or theory or whatever, and then they try to fit everything into that theory. Okay, so it's that's the wrong way. That's them. You're trying to match everything and fit into your theory, which could be wrong, by the way. Okay, or at the very least incomplete, and that's important. All right. Okay, so whereas Lao Tzu doesn't do that. He just observed nature, observed the world, and see how humans kind of like parallel the way humans work. It's parallels nature. Okay, and then he tried to describe it as simply as possible. Okay, so anyway, all right, so talk about, okay, so one of the key concepts, once again, of Lao Tzu it's called Pu, all right, okay, which is simplicity. We'll talk a little bit about that in next chapter. Okay, a little bit more. I mean, we already talked about this in chapter 37, among others. I mean, the other chapters that talked about, right, this concept of Pu, simplicity, right? Okay, so anyway, so I don't want to get talk too much about it, but it's talked about like 8 times and mentioned at least in 6 different chapters. Okay, 37 was one of the other. Chapter 57 also talked about 32, 28, 19, and 15. All right, so anyway, so okay, so additional meaning is that what's the basis of the Tao, for the Tao, the basis. So what he did was he chose that the Tao is a foundation built on the observations and experiences from life. Okay, so that's very basic. So it's more practical. Okay, also the basis are that concepts that have been proven over time, that have proven themselves over time. Okay, concepts, in other words, that are consistent and works over time. So it's not just only work this time and then doesn't apply the other times. Okay, so right, and also the teachings that are rather simple and based on universal truth. Okay, so he so basically Lao Tzu to apply these three things. Okay, that it's based on life experience, or experience that it's that all humans have a common, how can I say, common experience, the common experience of humanity. Okay, and then that also the ideas or concepts that apply time and time again. Okay, so it never fails. And also his teachings are basically very simple and based on universal truths. Okay, not on just one narrow theory or truth, but it's broad. Okay, and it applies everywhere. Okay, so the further understanding is that in addition to having a foundation, his words have an aim, have a goal, they have a purpose. Okay, so the authentic Tao cultivator, that one who really understands the Tao, that's the authentic Tao cultivator, is an extraordinary person with an ordinary appearance. Okay, yeah, so on the surface level, they know no different like any other person, these authentic Tao cultivators, but they are truly extraordinary inside because they truly understood the Lao Tzu's words. Okay, what Lao Tzu. But at the same time, they do not draw attention to themselves. They do not proclaim to say, hey, I'm the expert, so so you have to follow me, etc., etc., etc. None of that. Okay, all right, none of that. All right, okay. So, did I see Appendix B? Did I miss Appendix B? Okay, sorry. Sorry, let's look at Appendix B. I don't think did we look at Appendix B? Sorry, I thought I missed something. Let's look at Appendix B. Okay, Appendix B. Now, I was saying how to identify a fake master. Okay, so non-authentic Tao masters. Okay, so real life people seen as Tao masters who fall short of the mark. Now, these are based on true examples. I mean, I'm not going to name who the people are, but anyway, so there's an author who wrote a best-selling book about the Tao. This is a Western author, but he lived a life full of intense frustration. So this is something that's not an authentic cultivator, right? Because they're not really following Lao Tzu's teachings. So, and how's that? Because in a couple interviews, in one interview, and I think you can find it on YouTube. But anyway, he was complaining. He was complaining about about not just everyone, but specifically about his publishers and and in general about the world of the publishing industry. Okay, he was complaining about how hypocritical they are, or how they're driven by certain motives and stuff like that. Okay, so he's complaining about them. Okay, so yeah, he was a best-selling author. Okay, so he was and yeah, he wrote a supposedly the very not the most, but a very popular version, or translate a very popular version of the Tao Te Ching. And yet, in his own personal life, he was complaining. He was complaining about everyone, mainly about the people in the publishing world. Okay, anyway, so, and also he said that he was so frustrated, or so frustrated that he would grind his teeth at night. He would chew down his teeth, that he had to go see his dentist or something, or get a new set of, I don't know, whatever, implants or stuff like that. Anyway, so okay, so this is an example of someone who knows enough about Tao. Okay, but that's why I put in quotation. Okay, knows enough about the Tao that he published a bestseller about the Tao, and yet he could not practice Tao, or he could not follow what he Now, it just proves that when he knows, quote unquote, knows enough, it's just purely intellectual level, at the very, you can say conscious intellectual level at that. And he, so it's not really truly knowing it. Okay. Now in chapter 71, we'll talk about a little bit about that. Okay. I mean, a little bit more in depth. Okay. The chapter 71 is titled Without Fault. It's very short. It's one of the shorter, I think it's the fifth shortest chapter in the entire classic. But anyway, so I don't want to go too deep into what this knows right now means. Okay, it's we'll talk about next week in chapter 71. All right, but anyway, so we see examples of this all the time, right? You have people who, especially in the personal empowerment or personal improvement sphere of the publishing world, you have some people who are, some authors who publish a very, popular version or something of about self-improvement or whatever. Okay, and yet in their own personal life, they couldn't, how can I say, walk the talk. They don't even follow what they say themselves. Okay, so, or what they wrote themselves. Okay, so it's just okay. Anyway, so there's a disconnect. Okay, just like a dichotomy. Okay, and now, so there's a difference. So this illustrates that there's a difference between knowing, quote unquote, in this case, writing about the Tao Te Ching, about something, and then doing it or practicing. So the difference between knowing or talking the talk and walking the walk. Okay, so there's a difference, right? So this is not this. So this is very, so this is a very, it's a dichotomy. There's a difference between knowing and doing it or practicing it. So that's not really truly knowing. Okay, so I want to talk about this now, but okay. Now, second example is there's a teacher, supposedly, or a quote unquote master teacher, who taught his students the following. Okay, now suppose this teacher was based in, I think, in Northern California or someplace. And I think he's still around, or maybe not. He moved. I think he moved to the Northwest. But anyway, okay, he said he told his followers the following. Okay, he says, whenever you have a new car, you should smash it up, or put scratches on it, or dent it, or whatever. So then thieves will not want to steal it, because because thieves don't want to steal a car that's, scratched up or banged up or have dents in it or imperfect, have blemishes. So, so you should do that to your new car. Okay. That's what he taught his students. All right. And also doing things that are inappropriate because it's natural, like, I don't want to use a crass example, but let's say you have to, nature calls and you have to, use the restroom. And you do it in the open, doesn't matter, because it's, your excuses, it's natural. Everybody does it, so it's okay. But it's inappropriate or, very embarrassing or, improper. Okay, so uh, so that's an odd, this is a very, odd way of teaching, of conducting yourself. Okay, so now what this quote unquote teacher or master does not understand is that, what they don't understand, what they misunderstand, is that that's not what the Tao teaches. Okay, the Tao teaches something that when it's appropriate, you should do it. When it's inappropriate, you should not do it. Okay, so that's a distorted understanding of the teachings of the Tao. So we have to be careful. Okay, so all right. Okay, so anyway, let's go back. Sorry to append. Okay, okay, I skipped it. Sorry, I skipped Appendix B. Okay, so sorry. Okay, we did skip. Sorry. Okay, so the key point is this. I don't know how we skip this. An authentic Tao coder would make it a point to put into action all the teachings of this text of the Tao Te Ching, whereas most people, that's the world, view his words as mysterious, paradoxical, inscrutable, and difficult to comprehend and put into practice, or even disconnected from the mundane world. So why is this so? To not walk the walk can happen when people, one, talk a great game but cannot actually deliver. Okay, they talk well, but they can't follow up on it. Okay, and practice a highly distorted version of the Tao. So that's very, we got to be very careful. Okay, of what is the true version of the Tao. Okay, so in general, those who talk the most do the least. Okay, so while those who talk the least do the most. Okay, so we got to be, we have to be mindful of that. And also, what's the highly distorted version? That's when it is really strange and impractical, such as teachings that you cannot apply in real life to a positive effect. Lao Tzu's words have to be practiced in order to understand the teachings. So why the people or the world cannot understand his words? Because people do not practice his teachings properly. I should say properly. Unless we practice his teachings, we cannot understand his words, just as you cannot know how a dish tastes like just by reading the recipe, right? I mean, you can all look at a recipe and say, hey, yeah, I can, I can see what the recipe calls for, what kind of ingredients, et cetera, and how you cook it, for how long, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't tell you how it tastes, right? Unless you actually follow the recipe, cook it, and then taste it, right? So same idea, okay, same idea, all right? So just by reading the recipe without following the recipe to cook and taste it yourself, so you will not be able to tell. So people who just read his words without practice will never understand his words. Okay, so that's why it's very important, and that's the Tao Te Ching. Okay, it's not just some, to be read, just to be read and then not practiced. Okay, so then that's not true understanding. Okay, so we saw the example. Sorry about that. I don't know why I skipped this. Okay, anyway. Okay, I skipped this. Anyway, all right. Okay, so let's go to where is it? Okay, let's go here. Let's go to this. Okay, so all his words that has a foundation. Okay, so first, now let's look at some examples of what's not true Tao practice. Okay, what's not a true Tao practice? Oops. Okay, what's not a true Tao practice? Okay, so some examples of not a true Tao practitioner, true Tao practitioner. Okay, so one, you are so taken with the Tao that you get a tattoo where everyone can see it, usually from a desire to try to get. Now, okay, so there's some controversy about this, but anyway, some people are so, I don't know, just like people in love, right? Some people are so in love with each other, they get a tattoo. They tattoo the significant others, either initials or whatever, name or initials on their bodies. But what happens when they no longer fall in love? Well, anyway, now, so some people are very, taken in. They were very impressed by the Tao. So they say, hey, I want to tattoo, I don't know, Lao's name or the Tao or whatever, okay, some phrases into their bodies to show that they really are, I don't know. Now, actually, true Tao cultivators don't need to do that. They don't have to draw attention, right? Remember I said, okay, now we can say, whoa, isn't this, this is slandering some culture. Yes, there are certain cultures, mainly indigenous cultures, and also some ancient cultures that apply tattoos as part of their cultural heritage or traditional rituals. I think some Samoans do that. The Samoan culture, they do practice using tattoos, to put onto their bodies. Okay, one of them is being the rite of passage. As a young boy, it becomes a younger man. They do put some tattoos to show that. Okay, and others are more like a tribal tradition, which is, the elder people, or the people who are, let's say, masters of their tribe, or leaders of the tribe. They also have tattoos to show that they're the leaders, etc. So that's different. This is more cultural. This is more like a tradition, ritual. Okay, in ancient civilization we have that too. Okay, and it's not just in the Pacific Islander civilizations, but also in Europe, in Africa, okay, in Asia, parts of Asia. So it's not okay. So but what my point is not about this. Okay, it's not saying, oh, it's wrong to follow this cultural tradition. Hey, that's your your cultural tradition. That's fine. That's okay. I'm talking about people who actually have to tattoo something, outside of this, their cultural religion or whatever, cultural tradition or whatever, okay, rituals or whatever, to do this. That's different. Okay, that's more for self-display, okay, flaunting. Okay, so that's or number two, something similar. You dye your hair a bright, unusual color. I dye my hair pink or green or whatever. I don't know, blue, whatever. Okay, whatever, to show how unique you are. Usually this is due to a lack of self-confidence to dye for that. Once again, all right. So I don't want to get into the psychology of this. There, people do whatever, do for some reason. The whole point is this: is that you're doing something that's quote unquote unnatural. I don't know. There may be people that are born with, I don't know, green hair, maybe blue hair. I don't know. There may be, I don't know, orange hair. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't come across one yet, but it's possible. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Genetically, I don't know. Okay, but anyway, but you have to do something. I'm just not saying dyeing your hair, but you're trying to do something to show how unique you are. That's a very, to me, that's a very superficial way of getting about it. Okay, that's a very, all right. So it's mainly just implies that, you either crave attention or you lack self-confidence of who you are. Okay, so that's, Tao practitioner would not do this. Okay, would not really do this. Or you wear unusual attire every day just to demonstrate that you are free from society's expectations. So, some people, I don't know. They wear, whatever. To show that they are different, to show that, hey, society, I don't conform. I'm a non-conformist. I don't conform to society's expectations. So yeah, so like, like for example, I don't want to, like for example, we have temple rules and regulations, right? And usually, you know, on the temple, especially for men, okay, for men, we expect you to wear, at least, presentable, clothes. Generally speaking, it's like business attire, business attire we call quote unquote business attire. So usually that may be a necktie and a jacket, a suit jacket or something like that. Okay, so you don't have to go around, so you can say, oh yeah, that's being conformist. Okay, conforming to the to the rules or regulations of the temple or etc. So you say, hey, I want to be different. I'm not a conformist, so I'm going to wear, I don't know, a robe. I'm going to wear a robe, because in the ancient days they wear robes, so why not? So anyway, once again, this is all very superficial. It's all very superficial, right? We're attached for Now, you can argue that, hey, why is a robe, no less quote unquote formal than, let's say, a necktie and a suit, just because in the modern world, a necktie and suit is considered formal, right? Because you wear it to work, business, So anyway, so I don't want to get into these type of arguments, but it just, once again, this deep attachment to this notion of, you have to be either a nonconformist, and it's also very superficial, I mean, ultimately, you know, ultimately, they don't make it, it's not very important. What's important is what's inside of you, okay? What's inside of you, what's your character like, okay? That's more important, okay? But anyway, so I don't want to deal too much time on that. I'm gonna lose time. Or lastly, you act in unusual and or dramatic ways so people will notice you are not a conformist, usually from a desire to advertise how spiritual you are. So once again, this is like, virtue signaling. You act in very unconventional manner, just to show, how, either how virtuous you are, how, what a, I don't know, whatever, what a good practitioner you are, or whatever, for whatever reason, and that you're non-conformist, but yet you still good. So in this case, if you guys can read up on in Buddhist in the Buddhist tradition, Buddhist canons, especially you read about Buddha's disciples or his congregation, not in this, yeah, I mean, they're all his disciples, but, his congregation, how some Buddhists, some followers of Buddha, they behave this way. And Buddha has something to say about that, okay? So anyway, so you guys can read about that. It's kind of, some of it's pretty humorous, okay? So anyway, so just be, yes, we have to conform to certain standards, but understand that that's not the ultimate aim. Okay, all right. We try to conform because you don't you want to. It's a middle path. Okay, so once again, it's a middle path. You want to conform, and you want to show some kind of unity, not unity, or unity, or non-ambiguity. But yet, understand that that's not the most important. That's not, I mean, that's only a part of the overall thing, a scheme of things. Okay, the part of the overall goal. Okay, so just I just want to point that out. Okay, all right. So let's go back. Okay, so the key point is this. Oops. Okay, so the key point is this: to understand his words. Okay, Lao Tzu's words mean that we know the goal that we should be pursuing. But whatever matters were spoken, they all have their principle or main purpose. So whatever they want to convey, they all will manifest. That is talk the talk and walk the talk. Okay, so let's go to summary. Okay, so here, my words have basis. What is that? Okay, so there are three tests. We've talked about this, I think, in a previous chapter, maybe chapter 12, goes way back, and way back. Okay. So it's also, now three terms about what we're about to say. I'm just talking about what we're about to say. Okay, so that's just a good example. It's also known as the three filters of speech. Okay, so the first one is the truth test. Is it true? Is it backed up by proof or logic? Okay, it's a real, it's a true. Okay, so before we say things, okay, now three tests to consider before what we're about to say. Okay, so excuse me. So whatever we say should be truthful, right? Should be true, okay, backed up by proof or logic. Second test is goodness test. Is it kind, fair, or compassionate? Does it contribute to the common or greater good? So if the things that something that we're about to say, if it passed the first test, that is truthful. Okay, it's true. Okay, fine. Next test it has to pass is it good? Is it kind? Is it fair? Is it compassionate? Does it contribute to the greater good or the common good, the greater good? Okay, so it has to pass that. And suppose it does pass that. Okay, then the last test is necessity test. Is it useful or necessary? Is it beneficial or constructive? So the things that we're about to say, so let's say has to pass through all three levels. Okay, because there's certain things that could be true, and it could be it could be true or it could be kind. But then lastly, it also has to pass, is it necessary? Is it beneficial? Okay, or constructive? If it's not constructive, then, even though it may be true, or even though it may be good or kind or fair, then but it's not necessary, then there's no need to say it. Now, like, what about gossip? Now, sometimes assuming that gossip is based on some truth, but it's not going to pass the goodness, even though you may say, gossip is, it's kind or fair. I don't know if that could be, I don't know. Okay. But is it really necessary? It's not, right? It's not beneficial. So therefore, we don't gossip. Okay. I mean, or something. Okay. So these are just some examples. Okay. So we should, be be mindful, okay, of what we're about to say, things that so it's called the 3 filters of speech. Okay. Anyway. All right. Okay. So let's go to the last section. All right. So the last half of section 2. Okay. I gotta go through very quickly. My time's almost up, but let's see. Basic meaning. At the ancient level, people do not understand the Tao of his words and actions. That's important. Okay. So that's what he meant by people do not understand this. Okay. People do not understand this. Okay. It just means, what's this? It just means that people do not understand the Tao of his words and actions. Okay. And why is that? Why is that? Because in ancient times, people still wanted deities to pray to, ones who could grant them protection, favors, blessing. Okay. Because people still, have their own gods, especially in ancient China too. They still have their own, deities that they want to pray to or follow. Okay. Whatever. Okay. So they don't understand that there's something that's higher. Okay. Now in the modern era, things have not changed that much because many still have not heard of the Tao, right? Many have no idea what the Tao is. And in the West, there's also the cultural challenge as well as the added challenge of language barrier. All right. So that's fine. Okay. So people do not understand his words and actions because they do not have the wisdom. They do not have self-awareness. Okay. All right. That's one big reason. Okay. So the implication is that for most the popular translations of the Tao Te Ching, about a quarter of the content are mistranslated or just wrong. Okay, about a quarter, because the writers changed the original meaning of the words to say what people want to hear, where each version will all have their ardent supporters. Now, why is this so? Because of some preconceptions. First impressions are strongest, most lasting. So people who were not exposed to the text will see the early popular but inaccurate translations as their standard version of the text, even when there may be better or more accurate translations of the text available. Okay. Now today we have machine learning, machine language, which will improve the way words can be translated, or etc., or more accurate, nuances. But anyway, so that way will help improve. But anyway, so this is an example of the stubbornness of the wrong idea. So that's very important. So this is one thing that we have to learn, that ideas that we can, like in today's world, we can see some people, why do they still continue to believe these wrong things, the wrong ideas, whatever, wrong, follow these wrong concepts, misconcepts, etc. That's because it's called, this is psychology now, we're going to human psychology. There's the stubbornness of the wrong idea, that even when the idea is wrong, people will still persist in believing them. Now in psychology, this is called the primacy effect. So whatever is the first idea or concept that people learn, they will cling to it. They tend to cling to that. Okay. Even though later the idea, the concept or the idea, whatever, may be proven wrong, people still cling to it. That's why. Okay. So just like the earth is flat. Okay. That's the first theory that came out, right? They did, I'm going to describe the physical world. People say, hey, the world is flat. So that idea still, I'm not that many people believe it now, but there still are. Okay, so that's the psychology behind it. Is called the primacy effect. Now in marketing, those of you who work in marketing, okay, that idea is called the first mover advantage. Okay, That's in the Chinese 先发优势. Okay, so some examples are some of the most recognized brands or companies today were the pioneers or the first to make or either to enter or establish a market for their products. So, IBM. So, for example, IBM is one of the first to come up with mainframe computers. So, even though IBM today are no longer, I mean, they're still pretty good, but the other, computer company, Apple, whatever, the iPhone, so that's why Apple, everybody knows about the Apple or the Mac or whatever. Okay, things like that. All right. So, Google, whatever, okay. So stuff like that. So because they have, they're the first ones to enter a market or to create a new market. So that's why. All right. So, okay. So that's why, Tesla, the first, I mean, I don't think they're the first electric vehicle. I mean, they've been hybrids. Yeah, they're probably the first all electric. But anyway, okay. So anyway, so that's why. All right. So that's called the primacy effect or the first mover advantage. Okay. So the key point is this. Okay. People do not understand his words and actions all have a great foundation and purpose. That there is a greater goal to his teachings, to Lao Tzu saying. The greater goal of his words are to actually practice his teachings. That's the greater goal, okay? But without the practice, people will not understand his words and the goal of his teachings because they do not have the wisdom or self-awareness to do so. Okay, so now let's do the conclusion. The last piece is those who understand me, or Lao Tzu's words, are few, or the Tao, really, okay, if you want to go to higher levels, the Tao are few. So I am highly valued, or I am valued. Okay, so the Tao is valued. Okay, therefore, the sage wears plain clothes but holds Jade. All right, okay, so let's do the basic meaning is even though very few people in the world understand the teachings of Lao Tzu, but sooner or later, the real and true teachings of Lao Tzu will emerge. So his words and teachings will be valued greatly. Okay, another one is, this will happen because eventually the poorly translated versions of the text will be replaced by the more accurate and better translated versions of the text. So his words are truly valued because there are so few people that understand his words. Okay, so there's a, in Buddhism, they also have something similar. So over a long enough span of time, over a long enough period of time, the truth will come out eventually. Okay, so that's similar to the Buddhist saying, there are three things that do not stay hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Okay, so that's a well-known saying attributed to Buddha. Okay, all right, anyway, okay, so how will the truth be revealed? By pursuing the substance of his words, by knowing his spoken words all have purpose, and by knowing his words convey a principal goal for how to live our lives. That's how the truth will be revealed, okay? So that's why you have to know that, well, first of all, you have to pursue the substance. That's really know the meaning of his words, okay? And then understanding that his words have a purpose, there's a foundation and the goal behind it, okay? And then by knowing his words have a principal goal, okay? So have a purpose and goal and how to live. Okay, so let's go to part 2. All right, so wear plain clothes but holds Jade. Okay, so wear plain clothes and hold Jade. Jade represents the Tao. Jade is a metaphor to Tao. There's no need to display or advertise this Tao or Jade. No need to hide at the same time. No need to stand out. So it's it's a very middle path way. Okay, you should not hide the Tao, but you also no need to stand out. Okay, so then also we should connect with teachers who dress and speak plainly. No costumes, no riddles, no gimmicks. Okay, so just plain, people who speak plainly, who are common in experience, ordinary in appearance. Okay, and then we should realize that those who consistently demonstrate grace and humility through their actions, not just in words, but also in actions, then they got the Jade or they got the Tao. Okay, so that's all right. So we're almost at the end conclusion. Okay, so all right. So let's look at the last line. Okay, last line is basic meaning is that Wearing plain clothes is a metaphor for assuming an ordinary appearance, common, ordinary, not extraordinary appearance. It is not just your attire, but also your demeanor and actions, what you say and what you do. Okay, so beyond just the clothes that you wear, the common clothes. Okay, all right. So it's this. It's similar to this. It's similar to, therefore, the sages hold on to the one as an example for the world, not self-displaying, and so are seen clearly, not self-asserting, and so are distinguished, not self-approving, and so have merit, not self-boasting, and so are lasting. Sorry, that's from section 2 of chapter 22. Okay, to hold on to the one. To hold on to the one is the same as, or hold on to the oneness is the same as holding Jade. Okay, so conversely, to act out or to flaunt, to self-assert, to self-approve or self-boast and draw attention reveals an insecure ego. So that's not true. Okay, now there's a deeper understanding of what the Jade means. Okay, the Jade is often on a tangible level. It's a metaphor for something that's the most precious in each one of us. In ancient times, now pure Jade, supposedly, that's Eastern. This is the Eastern. Okay, in ancient times, this is the general belief then that the pure Jade has the power to save lives. You know that? Yeah, they say that. That's why a lot of times the emperors or the very what we call I don't know, high status people or wealthy people in ancient China often wear pure Jade, because supposedly when a disaster or calamity accident comes along, let's say accident, they will not be physically harmed, but the Jade will break, will crack or whatever, because the Jade will save their life. That's right. Now on the intangible level, the Jade is a metaphor for our self nature, the Buddha nature essence, without which we cannot survive, right? So the deeper meaning of holding Jade is to possess a priceless treasure within. That's the Tao itself, or to have the Buddha nature. Okay, all right. So the external higher meaning is this: it's that the sages wear plain clothes but hold Jade. Is a metaphor for enlightened beings or sages who appear just like ordinary people, but they hold on to the one. That's the Buddha nature or the Tao within. Internally, that's the external side. Internally, our Buddha nature or sage is at one with the Tao. That's the holding Jade. While its outer appearance is just an ordinary person. Now, there's a very short story encounter of I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story of the conversation between Huineng, the future sixth patriarch, and the fifth patriarch. When the sixth patriarch Huineng first arrived at the temple. Okay, so it's in chapter 1. It's like the first, I don't know, first 3 or 4 pages of chapter 1 of the Platform Sutra. What happened was, Huineng left his mother, left his home in the south, and he traveled for roughly 30 days to go to this temple called the Dongtan Temple, or monastery. So after 30 days, he reached the temple, and so he presented himself before the fifth patriarch. Now the fifth patriarch is a rather plain spoken and straightforward person, so he did not go through the formalities, focus on the formalities that much. He asked Huineng directly. He said, "Where are you from? What are you looking for here?" Okay, and then Huineng replied, "Master, I'm a commoner, a commoner from the southern province. I have come a long way to pay my respects to you. I seek nothing other than to become a Buddha." So Huineng is also very direct, okay, to the point. Now the fifth patriarch regarded this young man, and so he said, "Now this young person is it's an illiterate person. What does he can be a Buddha?" So he wanted to test him. So he said this. He said the following. He said to Huineng, "You are a commoner from the south, and the commoners from the south are usually barbarians. How can a barbarian hope to become a Buddha?" Now Huineng was very unruffled. Okay, he wasn't offended. Okay, he was not offended. Okay, Huineng responded. He said, "Although people are differentiated in terms of north and south, in Buddha nature there is no north and south. The body of the barbarian may be different from that of the monk, But what difference is there in terms of Buddha nature? Okay, so we should be like Huineng. I mean, well, I was like Huineng has high wisdom, right? Obviously, so he was not attached to the form, to just the human appearance, right? Okay, so in those days, I mean, supposedly in those days, to be called a barbarian is an insult. It's like an insult. I mean, it's like today too, when people call you things either because of your ethnicity or the color of your skin, or your appearance, etc. Okay, it's unfortunate people are still ignorant today. But anyway, so all right, so the whole idea behind this is that especially as cultivators of Tao, we should not focus our attention on the exterior, on the external. Rather, we should focus on our Buddha nature. That we all have the same Buddha nature, regardless of what we look outside. All right, how we look. Okay, so let's go to the implication. Is that because the truth of any matter will over time be revealed, authentic Tao cultivators prefer to draw no attention to themselves, but they also do not hide. Okay, they are glad to discuss the Tao, that's the Jade, but make no effort to initiate the discussion, that's not to advertise the Jade, because authentic Tao cultivators prefer to demonstrate the Tao in action or through action and not in words. Okay, so for some modern applications of this chapter's metaphors, let's go to summary 3, that's the last summary. Okay, let's do wear clothes. Oh no, sorry, where summary? Is it summary 3? Yeah, summary, sorry, yes, summary. Okay. Wear plain clothes, but holds Jade. Okay, what does that mean? Oh no, hey, sorry, we already did this. Sorry. Okay, we already did this already. Huh, I must skip something. Anyway, okay, doesn't matter. Okay, all right. Oh, it's this section 2. We missed this. Let's just go to this. Those who understand me are few. Okay, choose to be among the few who actually understand the Tao and practice the principles of the Tao. Learn only from authentic sources. Okay, and especially now we have the internet. We have a lot of, I don't want to say false masters, but just be wary. Just like okay, and also be careful. Be wary of the ones who promise quick results or supernatural powers. Okay, that's very important. All right. So anyway, okay. So let's go back to the conclusion. We're near the conclusion. So the key point is this. Okay. This chapter points out a key point. That is, the sages hold on to the Tao. That's the holding the Jade, which is to use the birthless and vanishingless Buddha nature to deal with worldly matters, to apply the Tao in the earthly life, to manifest the Tao through practice and not just in words, even though sages appear as ordinary people. Now, this connects to the first line of the chapter, which means to understand the words allows them to put into practice or to follow his words. Whereas words are very easy to understand and very easy to practice, where all his words have a purpose and a goal that we should be pursuing, where his words are based on universal truths, that's reality-based, it's also based on goodness, that's compassion, kindness, a necessity, that's usefulness. So that's the 3 filters of speech, okay? Whereby putting into practice his words, okay, means we are dealing with all matters in life based on principles sourced from a master, the Tao, that's the source of all principles, where all his words have a main objective, that they have a goal to convey. So all things have their principles, okay? So while most people do not understand his words and actions, because many are searching for something that is flashy and conspicuous, something that works magically without requiring disciplined effort. The Tao is none of these things. Therefore, most people do not understand him, understand Lao Tzu. They do not know that all his words have a great purpose. They have a great goal that requires us to act and put into practice. While for those who understand and practice his words are rare and exceptional individuals. So his words are truly valued, whereby understanding and practicing his teachings, our actions are true to our words and thoughts, okay? Where we can excel quietly, invisibly, and unknown to most people. This is to live a life of grace, humility, and compassion, where most people may misunderstand us because, like the sages, on the external level, we assume an unremarkable appearance while holding spiritual treasures deep within. That's the Tao principles. Where internally, where our Buddha nature, that's the sage, is at one with Tao, while we appear just like ordinary people. This is holding Jade. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm done. I just finished a little bit over, maybe. Okay, so this concludes chapter 70. If there are things that I say improperly or incorrectly, I ask for the Buddha's and Lao Tzu's guidance and your guidance as well. Thank you.